Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Unmute Minds. Today, we're doing something just a little bit different because, as you guys have seen, we've had a lot of guest speakers these past couple episodes, but today we want to do something a little more intimate. And so, I'm here with just my vice president.
Hello, everyone. My name is Caleb.
Hi. So, what are we going to be discussing today?
Today, we're going to be discussing when life doesn't go your way and your brain won't shut up. Let me break that down. We're going to be talking about when life doesn't go your way, what do you do in that thing? Do you just spiral into a despair state? Or do you move on and, like how I say, put a comma in between it? And we will talk a little more about that in a second. And we're going to talk about when your brain just keeps overthinking and just won't shut up.
I know I've been a victim of that.
Yes, I am too. All right, so the first thing is we're going to talk about how disappointment hits harder than it should. Danielle, do you want to take us off?
Yeah, of course. So disappointment is one of the strongest negative emotions that I know per se I've had friends and myself feel. Because it's so untalked about in comparison to other emotions like sadness or anger, because it's a combination of jealousy and sadness and anger and all these negative emotions just bunched up into one. Really, I think it's the strongest thing that you can feel. And it's not something that's talked about enough. So that's what we really wanted to get into today. We want to talk about the pressure that comes with disappointment. Why is disappointment so prevalent, especially in today's age? And we will get a little more into that later.
So I will say teens today do feel a lot of pressure to always win. And I'll say, I'm going to use PV as an example. PVs are very much, oh my god, I didn't get a 5 on I didn't get a 5 on my AP exam. Oh my god, I have to take more APs. I have to win. I have to win. And in reality, you really don't. Disappointment is a thing. It's a real life thing. And everyone's going to have to learn how to deal with it and live with it. You get really bummed out. You get disappointed. And it can lead to many different things depending on the person and their severity of if they have depression or like their state of their mind goes. And they could just lead into a spiral of just bad things that goes on. So I like to say you want to put a comma in between the phrase. And I stole that from my guard director. For color guard, you have choreography, right? And he would always say, is that a period between the phrase or is it a comma? You have to put a comma in between the phrase of, okay, this bad thing happened, I'm disappointed, comma, I gotta move on with my life. It's not that big of a deal. You got 6th or 7th place, comma, move on with your life. Don't let that event ruin the rest of your day or rest of your life. And I like how you said it earlier today in another episode that we did.
Definitely, yeah. You don't want to let just one bad thing that happens in your day ruin the rest of it. I like to say that, did you have a bad day or did you have a bad moment that you let ruin the rest of your day?
Exactly. I love that. Danielle, do you have a story that we can go ahead and discuss about disappointment?
Disappointment, I remember I used to be in the theater department, and I remember disappointment was something that was very prevalent in that, in terms of getting the exact role that you want, or for districts, getting the score that you want, and feeling disappointed with a still good, but not the level of score that you would want. I know that the last year I took theater, I went to districts, and I put a lot of pressure on myself that year to get a good score on my playwriting. And I don't exactly remember what I got, but I remember the goal was Critics' Choice or nothing. Now, I think it's a little obvious what happened. It didn't go my way, and it was something that really hurt because I got to watch the person who did get Critics' Choice from another school like 3 light years away get that, and it was this intense feeling of jealousy and sadness and longing that I had done better, or like trying to figure out what I had done wrong. Instead of focusing on the fact that I got to go to a competition, I got to do something that I loved, I got to take it to a competition, and I got to go to this event to see other people like present that as well. And it really helped me change how I see things. Like, I owe the theater department a lot because it helped me see things in a brand new light. It helped me cope with comparison. It helped me use techniques to try to calm myself down, especially when things didn't exactly go my way. It was a very it was a very big learning experience. It took a huge learning curve, but I remember starting out in middle school in the theater department and getting excellent on one of my writing pieces. And I was so sad because for whatever reason, little seventh grade me thought she was going to walk away with Critics' Choice and a big trophy. But it really just ended up being one learning experience after the other. And even though I've never gotten a Critics' Choice, I'm glad I didn't, because that to me would have just been like, oh, that's it. I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda now. I can go write my own Broadway show. I have nothing to improve on.
Exactly.
So there's no growth with that.
I would definitely say one of my stories is, so my freshman year, I played clarinet. And we went to our state champs. We did a preliminary run. And we were waiting at retreat. And we hear, Ponte Vedra High School, 10th place.
Oh.
And that means we didn't make finals because they announced all the final making and then they announced the rest of the teams who made the placement. And it was top 9 who made finals. And
oh
we got
my
10th
god.
place. Right after that, I got rejected to be in Winter Guard for that Winter Guard season because it was my first year and they were going to WGI. So, I did not put a comma, I put a period. And that means I stayed in that sentence for a while. And I didn't flow on with the rest of my life. And I stayed in that depressed state for, I want to say, a good bit. Then, I moved on. But I prefer to put a comma, not a period, in between any events that happen.
Thank you for sharing. That I did not know that story. Thank you.
Let's go ahead. Let's go into an overthinking type thing. What do you do, like, when you're overthinking, for example, Daniela?
It goes on... It's so funny because whenever it's happening, to imagine that it's physically happening, like, I'll be thinking about, oh my gosh, I had this interaction with this one person, but they seemed a little off, and then, oh my god, what if this happened to them? What if this happened to me? Wait, what if this? What if that? What if that? And I'm visualizing it all happening in front of me. And so next thing I know, I've got like 50 Danielas in front of me doing 50 different things to react, and it's so overwhelming, and sometimes I just don't really know how to stop because I feel like I'm this close to figuring it all out, to finding the solution. No, it's because of this. No, it's because of that.
Playing the 50 different scenarios. What if I did it this way? What if I did it that way? What would have happened if I did it this way instead of if I said this word instead of that word?
Something that I've learned is that the past is... It's going to sound so boring, but the past is the past.
Let it live there. Don't focus on it.
You can't live in the past, and you most certainly cannot live in the future, because the future... If the past doesn't exist, then the future is just like, there's nothing there.
You shape your future. You shape your reality.
Like, you don't even know what's going to happen 30 seconds after you listen to this sentence. Like, I
literally could... I'm going to be a little gruesome. I could walk out of this house and get hit by a bus.
Wow.
After this podcast.
That's not very positive.
I can't predict the future. But I can try my best and do everything I can in the present. And you want to stay in the present.
And you want to stay as positive as you can. It's not always easy to have a positive mindset about everything that's going on, especially when it feels like everything's going wrong, but there's always a silver lining. That's something that I've found out I don't want to say the hard way, but it took me a while to finally figure that out, that there was always a silver lining no matter what I was going through, no matter what was going on.
I would say my story of overthinking is, I did earlier with the comma situation with the color guard thing. First year, my freshman year, I overthought everything for that when I did that audition. I was so nervous. I was like, oh my god, I didn't make it because of this. Why didn't I make it? Was it because I did the angle wrong? Or like, I didn't put enough power into this toss? And like, I just kept on overthinking and spiraling. And then that led me into a panic attack. And I sat on the floor, panicking, crying, having an anxiety/panic attack on the floor for about 25 minutes. Anxiety and depression and all those things are real, and it's okay to talk about it. It's not something to be ashamed of, but like, we want to recognize it, and overthinking can lead to those things. It can lead to an anxiety or panic attack. So you want to always just, again, take a breath, take a comma, relax, take a second, look at it from a third person angle. Is this relevant? Is this going to affect me in 25 minutes? If I don't, alright, we're going to use another. If I don't get a 99.99999 on my FAST score or my EOA test or whatever test, in 5 years, will that matter? No. You literally just have to do enough to get into a college. And then you move on with your life. some things that we really hyper focus on or fixate on and just over like react and overthink about, it's not relevant. It doesn't, like, I'm not saying it's not relevant, but like it's not as important as we make it seem. Like, you get what I'm saying?
Definitely. You want to try to see things in a more neutral way. You don't want to put some kind of event on a pedestal like, oh my gosh, this happened to me, this now defines me. This failure or this disappointment or I let someone down. This is who I am. Because it's not who you are. You're not a failure. You're not a disappointment. There's no one who is a failure or a disappointment. There's someone who fails, and there's two kinds of people after a failure. There's those who bounce back, and there's those who just stay in the failure.
Okay, let me say something. Failure is the only way you succeed. And I tell that to my intensive reading kids all the time. I'm like, if you fail on something, okay, let's look at it. Let's see what we can fix and move on. You can't succeed without failure. There's nothing to grow upon. Your whole life is about from the minute you're born to the minute you die, how can I make this better?
How can I be better as a person?
How can I be better as a person? How can I make someone else's life better? What can I do to make someone else's better? What can they do to make my life better? And that's what a positive environment is about.
And something I like to think about failure is, okay, I fail. I finally succeed, and I like to think about it in my classes as well. I'm not doing too well. I'm finally doing good. I'm learning. How can I challenge myself even more? Because if I'm like failing here, if my goal is here and here's my success, so I need to set a new goal.
Exactly.
Because it's the only way you grow.
Exactly. Okay.
That's the way I like to think about it, especially when things get stressful at school. I need to remind myself that it's the only way you grow. There's no way to learn unless you have something to learn from.
Exactly. Let's go ahead and talk about why our brains think this way. Why does your brain go to the worst case scenario?
I think it's more so like a preventive coping system almost. Like maybe one day when we were all young, we all had this terrible thing happen to us that we did not see coming, and it was absolutely devastating. And so ever since then, you've just been trying to save yourself from feeling the same way.
I will say our brains are magical. The way it tries to overprotect us sometimes. Like I would say, if you live a traumatic event, your brain tries to block it out best it can. It doesn't want you to feel pain. And I think that's just crazy. But like it could also hurt us in a way of making us overthink. I'm like, okay, so what if I did it this way? What if I did it this way? I know like sometimes if I'm spiraling and if I'm not taking a breath, which you guys should, always take a breath, always put that comma there. And I'll be like, oh my god, so what if I did this conversation this way? And maybe I'll still be friends with them if I didn't say this. And what if, and that's if I was in a toxic environment or a toxic relationship, or what if I did it this way? What if I just did this and I actually just listened to them? You have to live in the present. Don't fixate on the past. That's what overthinking and spiraling does.
Wow, you just made me realize that's something I do a lot. Thinking like, what if I had done this? Even like, and for the most mundane things. What if I had eaten this instead of that? What if I had done it this way instead of that? I still got it done, but what if I had done it this way? And it's something that, like, I personally just realized this, 20 seconds ago? I usually focus on what could have been instead of what is, if that makes sense.
Yes, and I've told this to anyone I try to talk to about, like, this conversation. If you fixate on the past and you fix on what could have been, you'll miss out on what will be.
Definitely. Wow, I couldn't have said that better myself. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, put that on a pillow.
This leads us into the mindset flip, like how our, second episode was, changing our mind from a fixed to a growth mindset.
I can gladly talk about it. So, in our previous episode, we were discussing growth mindset versus fixed mindset. The brain with, like, colors and rainbows and sparkles falling out of it, and then the black and white brain just being fixed on this one thing. And that is what disappointment and failure is. Staying in failure is staying in what has happened to you, not what you can do or what you can be. There is a certain mindset that comes after receiving disappointing news or anything like that. And I know it's much easier said than done, but it's important to know how to bounce back, because the problems that you have now are going to be near nothing to what you're going to have in what, 10 years, 15 years. So it's
Let me
important.
give you an example. If you got a 50 on a math test, and that's a problem, right? Because you don't want to get a 50. 10 years, you won't even remember that. You won't remember you failed that math test. Doesn't matter. It matters, but not as big as you think of it.
Like, your biggest stressor right now is the math test, and then your biggest stressor in 10 years is going to be the taxes, the IRS. Like, it's important to know how to just take a moment and breathe, because even in 10 years, when you've got the bigger problems, they're still not going to spontaneously go away. You still have to find a way to cope with the stress and overwhelming feelings of those problems. And so that brings me into another question that I have for you, my friend. I know we've been discussing a lot about how it's important to bounce back from failure and disappointment, but I think the million-dollar question is, because it's much easier said than done, how do you usually try to bounce back from failure? Because I know you've mentioned a couple strategies, but in the moment it can feel a little overwhelming.
I got you with this one. Okay, so if y'all don't know me, hi, my name's Caleb. I do a lot of things. And as anyone, I don't succeed at all of them. I fail at, I want to say 90% of the things I do. If I'm going to give you an example, I teach a lesson at my, internship. My kids aren't getting it. I feel like a failure. I'm like, oh my god, what could I have done differently? Why are they doing this? You have to think of the third one. What can I do to improve their thought of it? And that's how you have to think of it. So that's like my educational thought of it. I'm like, what can I do to think for the future? What action can I take to help them? But if I'm going to use the color guard thing for reference, we got 6th place last year, and I was so sad. But I was like, you know what? We just have to enjoy it. We had a great run. We did our best. We can't control other people's shows. You can only control your show and what you do and what you put out on that field.
And not even your show. It's the way that those, 5 people see your show?
Yeah, and also the judges. You can't control what they think. I know for our state championships, our color guard judge did not like our show. But our first judge of the season loved it. Gave us first place. Or second place, I think. Or one of those things they gave us first place in. You cannot control someone else's thought. You can only control your thoughts. Your show, in a matter of speaking. And also I'm going to go a little bit deeper into it. You can't control your teammates' thoughts. You can only control your show. You can't control their show. Your show. And if the show means your life, if that's how you're taking this as, you can only control your show. So try to make you have the best show possible.
Said. And what you said reminds me of the rigid way of viewing things, the teaching internship thing you mentioned. Because especially when it comes to, I'll use your example, teaching children. You can't do it in the way that you think it needs to be done and then be disappointed in yourself for the failure. You've got to think, okay, so this didn't go so well. So you've got to think of a new way. Okay, these kids' point of views, for example. What is going on? Were they doom scrolling on Instagram while I was or what was going on? I'm not saying that they were, but I'm saying for an example. You can't just focus on the story through one lens, because there's a million different lenses.
Yes, exactly.
Between stories.
Or any type of a teacher, as a peer leader, or of anything, type of thing in charge or anything. You cannot expect someone to adjust to you. Sometimes you have to adjust to teach others and teach it their way of learning. If it's a visual learner, reading, auditory learner, a hands-on learner, or whatever, you have to adjust to their needs, not yours.
That's the bottom line, really, of disappointment. You've got to learn to adjust, because the only thing that's constant is change. You've got to learn to be able to go with the flow, which is such a corny saying that I've heard all my life, but that also needs to be put on the pillow. But it's something you got to learn to adjust to. It's something you got to learn to be able to accept, almost, because it's one thing to be able to adjust to it, but to accept defeat and to accept failure is a very difficult thing to master. I know that I've had failures that have been, 6 months ago, that I'm still I still could have done this. I'm not so sure.
Put a period.
Yeah.
You're done. That's when I say put a period, move on. Not put a comma, put a period there. You're done.
It's not easy to do. I know. I would love to just be like, okay, Done. One and done.
So, speaking of that, let's talk about tools, how we can do that.
Yes.
I love that segment, actually. That was a really good segment.
Good job.
Okay, so I have a few different strategies to give you guys. I'll talk one, and then she'll go, and we'll just bounce back and forth. I have some tools. One of my tools is journaling. I like to journal and just put all my thoughts on paper, and I call it a mind dump. So at the end of the day, I'll bring my notebook, and I'll write 2 to 3 pages, or whatever's on my mind, and I just dump it. And I rip it up, toss it, and throw it away. It just helps me relieve my mind. And it helps me control everything I'm thinking. Because I know I get very overwhelmed really fast, and you've seen it. If something just comes at me, it just piles up and piles up. And then if I don't journal, I scream. And I'll lose it.
Crash out.
I'll crash out on someone. And I feel horrible. So my brain will get overstimulated. I just write all my thoughts. I do a mind dump and I toss it out and I'm done with the day and then I go to bed and I restart my day. That's one of my coping mechanisms.
So for anyone that doesn't know me, I am a little bit of a music lover. I love my music. I love my songs. I'm very proud of my very diverse music taste. And so whenever things tend to go south, I just want to take a moment for myself, step away from the situation, and listen to a couple songs that help me first ground myself, remind me that I'm okay, I'm in one piece, I'm not I'm not like dead or anything, we're good, and helps me see things from a new lens, because I feel like music is something that's powerful. I think it's one of the most powerful things that man has made, because it makes you feel things in a different way. That's why everyone loves it. Like, you're not going to walk up to someone that just doesn't like music. What music do you listen? Oh, I don't listen to any. No one's ever going to say that. Everyone's got their music, and it's something that's so universal, unified, that it's a coping mechanism that can work for anybody. And so that's something I want to share with y'all. It sounds so, I don't want to say corny, but it sounds so straightforward, but it is really helpful. Trust me, I'm just going to speak from experience with that.
I like to listen. If I'm having a hard day, I'll pop my AirPods in. I'll lay down on my bed, turn off my lights. I have a black room. I look up the ceiling, and I see a black ceiling, and I just let my brain go away, and I just let my thoughts go away. Another one I like to use if I'm overthinking and I'm in a situation I need to get back into the game is I like to use the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. So, everyone knows how we have 5 senses, right? So what I do is I use 5 things I can see. In this room, I see a yellow base of a house. I see a pink folder. I see a white mirror. I see Daniela's pink shirt. I see our lovely wallpaper. I think that's 5. Maybe that was 4. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I lost track. I see our on-air sign. My 4 things is the 4 things I can smell. It's a little bit hard, so you have to get creative with it, and that's what takes my mind. I can smell air, laundry detergent, my hair products, Daniela's perfume. Those are 4 things. Now I use the 3 things. 3 things I can hear. I can hear the fan, the microphone, Daniela breathe. 2 things I can touch. I could touch my microphone, my legs, this plant, and then 1 thing I can taste. Chocolate, because I just had a chocolate bar. That's my way of grounding in a mirror, and it takes 2 minutes to do. Another method I like to do is the other 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, and this is the one I learned in theater. You take your hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you shake each body part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and it just gets the energy out, gets the nerves.
And by the time you're at like 2 or 1, you're just
having fun with it.
Yeah. You're not even counting by that point. But thank you for sharing. I know I do love my exercise. I feel like exercise is something that's so underrated. It's not really I know it's tough to get motivation to move your body because exercise can sometimes be a little bit uncomfortable and painful, but it gets your mind off of things, and it's really something that can be done for yourself because you feel good after you do exercise. Like in the moment you'll be like, I don't want to do this, but afterwards you feel good. Your brain releases dopamine as a reward system for all the exercise. So I feel like it's another really good system you could use.
We haven't done the Lift Up Challenge in a while.
Oh, boy.
I have a new challenge for us, guys. Drum roll, please. It is pick 1 thing that went wrong this week about your life. guys to rewrite it into a kind thought.
Ooh, okay.
And then if you want to, you can either keep it private or you're more than welcome to share it on our Instagram page. DM us, we'll put a little thing up there and let us know what your guys' kind thought is.
Yes, we would love to hear from you guys. Again, if you haven't been watching our episodes, that's at pvhs.liftup, okay? Follow us.
Make sure you also like and subscribe this episode, guys.
Yes.
We really appreciate it.
I love that it gets to subscribe now. That's great.
What comment should we do for this episode? If you watched this whole episode through, leave us a comment of a...
Oh, of a notebook.
Of a notebook.
For journaling.
Yes. And if you can't find a notebook emoji, write journaling.
Yes. I don't know. Yes.
So that's how
find
we'll
the
see,
emoji.
right? A little thingy. That would be so much fun. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's episode. We really appreciate it, and we really hope to see you guys again. Make sure you guys like and subscribe.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram too, and reach out to us. We would love to hear from you guys in the comments or on our Instagram.
And also, make sure you come to our weekly meetings in Ms. Picker's room, 720. If you're a PVHS student,
yes,
we would love to have you there.
We would. We really would. Okay. So.
At 8:30. By the way, it's at 8:30 on Mondays. All right, are you ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1. Unmute and lift up the world. Bye, all my friends.
Hey, it's time to rise. At Ponte Vedra, let's light up the skies. With our hearts united, we're breaking through. Here's to the club where we celebrate you. When life gets rough and the road feels tough,